Let's take a look at conditions that impact your dice rolling abilities when in your adventuring phase. And any of these conditions doesn't impact anything during the fellowship phase. It's only during the adventuring phase that any of these three conditions will impact. There are three: miserable, weary, and wounded. And if we take a look at the character sheets, you'll remember you'll have on the right hand side, just below where your current endurance and your current hope are your conditions: weary, miserable, and wounded. And with the wounded, there's actually a little injury text box. Let's first take a look at the miserable condition. Now, during the adventuring phase, player heroes will be forced to do shadow tests, face adversaries that may cause shadow gain, or even commit acts such as misdeeds that actually cause them to gain shadow. As we look at the character sheet, it's listed over here: shadow and shadow scars. When shadow and any shadow scars are equal to or greater than your current hope score, you become miserable. When a hero is miserable, when you're making a roll, if the feat die shows the result of a Eye of Sauron ruin, that means any roll, regardless of how many success dice you're rolling, and if you reach or equal your target number for that skill or combat task or whatnot, the action fails. Very, very troubling for a player. So, as a player, one of the things you do as you're adventuring is to ensure that you're not spending your hope too liberally, and you keep an eye on how many shadow points you do have and your gaining of any shadow scars. The next condition is weary. When player heroes have load ratings as well as fatigue that equal to your or over the endurance that you currently have, you become weary. When a hero is weary and they're making a roll, any success dice that is rolled that have a value of 1, 2, or 3, those values actually count as 0. So if we're going to roll for, say, for instance, a riddle roll, and we have 3 ranks in it, and we roll the feat die plus the 3 success die, we'll calculate the TN as follows. If the TN happened to be 15, we go 3 for a feat die, 0 because that's a 3 on the success, 4, 5, that means it's only a 12. There where we failed. If that actually equaled a 3 instead of a 0, we actually would have passed that because we would have matched the 15 TN of that skill roll. So it's very important to always, again, keep in mind your current endurance versus how much load you're carrying, and that's generally any weapons you're carrying, any armor, helms, or shield, as well as any added fatigue from when you're doing a journey. So always kind of keep that value in mind as well, so that you're maximizing your success dice values. The next and last condition is the wounded condition. Now, during battle or even during a journey event, you may experience a character that has a wound. Wounded heroes who remain active risk being knocked out of combat and recover lost endurance points more slowly. Let's go over to page 71 and take a look. So when we're resting, player heroes regain lost endurance points by resting. The extent of the player hero's recovery depends on whether they take a short rest or a prolonged one. Similar to other role-playing games, short rests are basically 1 hour's worth of in-game time. That is for doing light activities. So you're just kind of having a quick lunch, you're resting, you're trying to recoup. Normally, when somebody is resting, you gain a number of endurance points lost to your strength rating. So whatever your strength rating is on your character sheet, that's how much endurance you would gain back on a short rest. On a prolonged rest, you gain all lost endurance points when you're doing a prolonged rest, which kind of works out to be anywhere between 6 to 8 hours, whatever is up to your lore master, but usually up to 8 hours. And that's kind of like you're sleeping at night, or you're in town, you're spending a day not doing anything strenuous, such as combat, such as adventuring, such as journeying. For wounded characters, however, in a short rest, wounded heroes do not recover any points of endurance during a short rest, so you have to negate that. However, in a prolonged rest, a wounded player can only gain equal to their strength score. So, if, for instance, your character is wounded and the injury lasts for many days, not just one, then it really can impact the amount of endurance you're able to gain. And of course, limits your ability to take blows during subsequent combats if you're not fully up into endurance. So we talked about recovering of endurance points with the short rest and prolonged rest. Hope works a little bit differently, especially when your hope is reduced to 0. For instance, player heroes whose hope score is reduced to 0 are spiritually drained. It is impossible for them to find the energy required to push themselves beyond their limits. So, one asks yourself, how do you recover hope? Spending a fellowship. During the adventuring phase, whenever the company is resting, the player heroes may spend any number of the fellowship points pool to distribute an equal number of hope points among the players. All players must agree on this distribution. So that's something between the players in the company that have to agree on. Taking a break from adventuring. During the fellowship phase, all player heroes recover a number of hope points equal to their heart score. And then resting. Finally, player heroes who are down to 0 hope recover a single point of hope once they take a prolonged rest. So that's a look at the conditions that a player hero may experience during an adventuring phase: miserable, weary, and wounded. And you can find those conditions over here on your character sheet. If you've liked this video and you found it helpful, please comment, share, subscribe, hit that bell icon if you haven't for when you know when a new video drops. I'm Ryan of the North. Thank you for watching.